Good morning and welcome to January 13th daily Bible reading. We are in Isaiah chapter 13 today. Actually, now to think about it, yes, that's right, January 13th. Thanks for joining in today. Hope that you have had a good start to your morning as we begin to wind down this work week. Thanks for tuning in to the daily Bible readings over the past few days. For those who've been able to do so, I hope that it has been a good read for you as we've gone through these opening chapters of Isaiah. It's been good for me. I taught through this book a couple years ago, and it is to get back into it, to be reminded of a lot of the things I remember studying back then. And it's just a very, very substantive book. It's got a lot of really good material that reminds us of some very important truths. So I'm happy to be reading it with you this year as we go through the Old Testament prophets. And then on the 19th, just a reminder, we'll be kicking off some reading in the New Testament as well. So we look forward to doing that. But for today, we are looking at Isaiah chapter 13. So let me pull that up on the screen for us. We will get to reading Isaiah 13, which introduces a new player into the story of Isaiah's writing, and that is Babylon. Now, this is interesting because during this time, Babylon was not, like during the time of Isaiah's being on the scene of what's going on in the world, Babylon's not a major player. But for him to be able to write about what Babylon is going to do and kind of foretell how that's going to work out for them, it's really incredible, and just reminds us of the fact that Isaiah was not speaking on his own accord, but that he was speaking on behalf of God, that it is God who was able to see not just those who are currently engaged in the story of Israel, but those who are going to play a part in their future as well. So let's read then here in Isaiah chapter 13. There's a couple of phrases that are pretty important that we see throughout Scripture. Particularly the day of the Lord is going to be seen on a number of occasions, and it speaks about the judgment that is coming of God. So we'll see that here as we read along in Isaiah chapter 13. Isaiah 13, beginning in verse number 1, reading from the Christian Standard Bible, a pronouncement concerning Babylon that Isaiah, son of Amoz, saw. Lift up a banner on a barren mountain. Call out to them, signal with your hand, and they will go through the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my consecrated ones. Yes, I have called my warriors who celebrate my triumph to execute my wrath. Listen, a commotion on the mountains like that of a mighty people. Listen, an uproar among the kingdoms like nations being gathered together. The Lord of armies is mobilizing an army for war. They are coming from a distant land, from the farthest horizon, the Lord and the weapons of his wrath to destroy the whole country. Wail, for the day of the Lord is near. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, everyone's hands will become weak, and every man will lose heart. They will be horrified. Pain and agony will seize them. They will be in anguish like a woman in labor. They will look at each other, their faces flushed with fear. Look, the day of the Lord is coming, cruel with fury and burning anger, to make the earth a desolation and to destroy its sinners. Indeed, the stars of the sky and its constellations will not give their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shine. I will punish the world for its evil and the wicked people for their iniquities. I will put an end to the pride of the arrogant and humiliate the insolence of tyrants. I will make a human more scarce than fine gold, and mankind more rare than the goal of fear. Therefore, I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will shake from its foundations at the wrath of the Lord of armies on the day of his burning anger. Like wandering gazelles and like sheep without a shepherd, each one will turn to his own people. Each one will flee to his own land. Whoever is found will be stabbed, and whoever is caught will die by the sword. Their children will be dashed to pieces before their eyes, and their houses will be looted, and their wives raped. Look, I am stirring up the Medes against them, who cannot be bought off with silver, and who have no desire for gold. Their bows will cut young men to pieces, and they will have no compassion on offspring. They will not look with pity on children. And Babylon, the jewel of the kingdoms, the glory of the pride of the Chaldeans, will be like Sodom and Gomorrah when God overthrew them. It will never be inhabited or lived in from generation to generation. A nomad will pitch his tent there. A nomad will not pitch his tent there, and shepherds will not let their flocks rest there, but desert creatures will lie down there, and owls will fill the houses. Ostriches will dwell there, and wild goats will leap about. Hyenas will howl in the fortresses, and jackals in luxurious palaces. Babylon's time is almost up. Her days are almost over. This chapter of Isaiah 13 reminds me a lot of what we saw previously in chapter 11. Not chapter 11, chapter 10, when the judgment is pronounced against Assyria. And of course, what God is doing here is he is using pagan nations as tools to bring about punishment for his people, for those who have sinned against him. And yet here we have in this, the Lord now making a judgment against Babylon. The fact that yes, Babylon is going to be used as this tool, but again, God is not going to allow a wicked nation, even though he might use that wicked nation for his purposes, he's not going to allow a wicked nation to go unpunished. So here then is this language of Babylon themselves being punished. And it's interesting, especially in verse 17, the fact that he mentions specifically through Isaiah that the Medes are going to be stirred up against Babylon. And we look back historically, and that's what we see. We see Assyria being overcome by Babylon, Babylon being overcome by the Medes of Persians, the Medes of Persians, I believe, being overcome by the Greeks, and the Greeks by the Romans. So we see this as being the case, and we can see God as being at work here in history. And it all goes back to verse 11 for me, that this is what God is doing. He's going to punish the world for its evil. He is going to punish the wicked people for their iniquities. He's going to put an end to the pride of the arrogant and humiliate the insolent of tyrants. That again, though they are being used to exact judgments for the Lord's purposes, they too, being evil, are going to be judged. And then that needs to be something that we fully grasp, the fact that God is going to bring judgment. And he does so in this chapter, particularly through the day of the Lord, is mentioned on a number of occasions here, that it could be a day when judgment is being brought. It could be a day whenever deliverance is being brought. But here's the main point. The main point is this, that anyone who leaves God out of the equation will be judged accordingly. If they leave God out of the equation, the way they behave, they're going to become become destroyed. They're going to be punished. They're going to be destroyed. If from the perspective of God's people, if they do not consider God in who they are and what they do, they too are going to be destroyed. And here's the Lord again, just showing his consistency in bringing punishment upon those who rebel, especially a historically rebellious people like Babylon, who can trace roots back to Babel and that area of the world, and how there's continually trouble coming from that portion of the world. They're going to be punished, and they're going to be punished to the extent at the end of the chapter, it is just desolation. It is utter destruction. You thought you were the best, but I'm going to show you you are nothing. You will become nothing, and your time is almost up. Your days are almost over. So this chapter certainly serves as a warning to us. And if we are a people who are participating in evil, in iniquities, in pride and arrogance, if we're being tyrannical in some way, shape, or form, then we should not be surprised when God's punishment comes upon us. Thank you for joining in today for our reading in Isaiah chapter 13. Hope you'll join us tomorrow on January 14th for our reading from Isaiah chapter 14, where we begin to get into a section of pronouncements against various kingdoms of men. Their sins and shortcomings are going to be highlighted, and then the punishment that is coming to them will be highlighted as well. So hope you'll join in for tomorrow's reading from Isaiah 14. Thanks for being here today. Before we get off, I just happened to see on Facebook today that it is our own Jim Thomason's birthday. So happy birthday, Jim. Hope you have a great day. And thank you for all that you do for our church family. It was good to see everyone last night for our Bible study, our Bible classes, and our times together. We have many to be praying for. Let's continue to be praying for Billy Hoover and for Bill Simpson while he's out of town, and others as well. Gayleen, as she's recovering from future earlier in the week. It's just good to see everyone and look forward to seeing everybody on Sunday. But before then, we have a few more daily Bible readings. Hope you'll be able to tune in for those. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comments section. And we look forward to getting back at it tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.